today. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Amy Langill again. So welcome her to the stage. Let's give a round of applause for her.
Thank you. Just waiting for the monitor to come up. Good morning. I'm Amy, still, again, from the product team. Thank you all for being here first thing in the morning. I very much appreciate you. What we're going to talk about today is Collaborate in Context, Internal and External Sharing. This is the 6th title that this presentation has had. But don't worry, it's not a lot of slides, and 2 of them don't count, including this one. But what we're going to cover on this journey is collaborating with humans, why we do that in files, and how we do that in files. And specifically, we'll cover just a few ways that happens. The first would be collaborating through folders. Second is with share links, which is my favorite thing. The third is inboxes. And then we'll talk a little bit about the collaborative editing, where I may repeat word for word Tom's joke about Microsoft Office proficiency, but we'll decide at runtime for that. And then we'll wrap it up with, from all of these tools, which one should you be using in which case? So, getting into it. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about automatically doing things with automations, with syncs, remote servers, making sure that things go into your system and out of your system without anybody needing to touch it. For a lot of people, the best UX for you with files.com is you didn't have to log into it at all. Everything just went automatically. And if that's you, I love that for you. I fully support that lifestyle. But the truth is that there are still a lot of cases where humans have to be involved in transfers. Skynet has not yet replaced all of us. So we have situations in the real world where people need to be involved in files. They may be initiating it, they may be receiving the files, they might just be interacting with the files. So here's a couple of bullet points for you to enjoy about that. The first being quality assurance. And I actually spent a good amount of time talking to someone yesterday, who I don't see right now, unfortunately, but they spend a great deal of their time dealing with files that come in from some of their customers that need to get into a system at the other end, but the people who are uploading them do not upload them consistently, and they are often full of errors. So they spend a lot of their life opening the files, removing formulas from spreadsheets, removing hyperlinks, renaming things, changing date formats, generally performing quality assurance, and making sure that when a process runs, if 40 lines went in, 40 lines come out instead of 46 lines. So again, this is a case where people have to be in that loop. Another reason that humans can get involved with the file transfer is sometimes this is just a requirement of the people that you're exchanging with. So they simply cannot run a remote server for you to push files to. They have to have a person on the other end. One example, we have a group that they do content and advertising for a bunch of radio stations. And a lot of these affiliates do not have IT. They have an intern with a laptop who knows how to run FileZilla. So every day, the intern has to use FileZilla to go up and grab the programming and bring it down. That is the automation. His name is Chad. Another reason that people get involved is maybe you had automation. You had something that downloaded your file, scrubbed out all of the identifying information, and re-uploaded it. But maybe the worker that was doing that lost its internet connection over the weekend, and nobody realized it until Monday. But you still need all of your files to come in the right order with the right naming that gets added automatically. So somebody has to go dig out the files that didn't come in at the right time and manually put them in the queue where they had to go, because, again, Skynet is still in development. Manual processing, what I'm referring to there is that not all the data that comes in to your file site is generated by a machine. Sometimes people are typing things into forms, or you don't know who's going to be sending it to you because you're soliciting from the public. And similarly, stuff that's going out of your files.com site isn't always going to a machine. And then there's self-service portals, which is often what people think about when I talk about sharing. And that's where you can set up the place for people to go and either provide you things through an inbox or download things from a share link or from public hosting. Here at Files, this is actually our primary distribution method for desktop app v6. We have a public hosting link that we automatically populate, but people have to go click on it, download the installer, and run it. So the point of this slide is that we haven't been replaced by Skynet yet, so we have to make allowances for all these workflows where it isn't just computer does thing and it works perfectly. All right, moving on. So the first way in which we do this is what we're calling collaborating with folders. Sometimes we also call this direct sharing. Now, what this actually is user accounts. So this is generally a thing that you're going to use for internal users in your organizations, sharing things between departments, or maybe if you've got multiple team members who are working on a client, sharing a folder for that client's content so that you can all collaborate there. And this is not only good for internal, but also external. Like if you have that long-term relationship with the affiliates of the radio stations, they all have user accounts, one for each individual radio station, so they can access only the things they need to access, and they get all the logging. So the full access control of those very granular permissions, saying you have read-only access over here, but you have full permission over here, and you can even view the history over here. That is all done through user accounts. You really got to have the user accounts for that full experience. And there's an extra special permission that we use with this called folder admin. And again, at files.com, we make heavy use of this folder admin permission within our corporate files.com site. Because yes, we use the heck out of files.com for our business. And each team has its own folder structure in the corporate site. And the lead of each team has folder admin access to their folder. So that means that the product folder, for example, Vivek, as head of product, is a folder admin on product. So if he decides that we need to be able to interact with marketing, he can share a folder internally with other users as a folder admin by adding the proper permissions for the marketing people so that they can see the stuff that we as product are working on, and we can do that kind of collaboration. The other things to know about user accounts is this is how you get 2FA. This is also what you need to have for protocol access. You have to have a user account to use the desktop app. This is the reasons why people are like, but why can't we just use a share link? Well, you need to connect the desktop app, you need to have a user, you need 2FA, you need to have a user. You need email notifications, you need to have a user. We only can send folder activity notifications, meaning, hey, Amy just deleted a file from your folder that you have for the client. If you need that email to go out, then the person has to have a user account for that email to be generated. And having user accounts also enables co-editing documents with Microsoft Office. You may have heard of it. Or with the Files Online editor, which is embedded in your site, which anybody can enable, and you don't need an Office license for. All right, and with that, we come now to my favorite thing, share links. So first we'll talk about what a share link is, but that's boring. All right, I'm just gonna give you all the bullets. There we go. So a share link, I'm sure many, if not all of you, know what a share link is, but I gotta do this for posterity. So it's web-based sharing. Usually you do this with external partners, but you can do it internally, of course. And again, this is that sort of targeted, limited access to specific folders or files where you can give somebody access, again, only through the web, no protocol access. But the thing that makes share links amazing is that so many people use them in so many different ways that there are like 40 settings between these are the settings on the site that affect all share links, and these are the settings on my share link that affect this share link. So there are so many ways to configure it that it is very hard to answer the question of how share links work, because you could get a master's in how to configure share links. We have settings for whether passwords are required. We have settings for whether you use the same password security rules as your user accounts for share links. We have settings for what kind of emails go out with share links. You can get notified that somebody that you sent a share link invitation. So if somebody says, hey, I never got your email, you've got, well, I got a copy of the email. And as you saw in the logging presentation, you have the outbound emails log, or you can go and see, we sent the email, so check your spam folder. You've got the ability to do registration. And that's where you put a form up in front of the web thing, so you can capture the information. And you can capture information about the person who's using it, or you can capture information about the files that they're uploading. So if you have like a payroll date, or an incident ID, or a branch manager, or some other information that you need associated with these files uploaded through the web, that gets hooked in there. And through metadata, which you'll hear about later, it actually stays hooked to the file. So the file knows which registration uploaded the file. So the information that you've captured in that registration is still associated with those files. And then this last bullet's cool. We actually very recently did this with full access share links. You have the ability to do that editing of documents, spreadsheets, presentations together. And the reason that's great is that it eliminates the thing where you say, here, I need you to download this form. I need you to fill out the form. I need you to upload the form. Instead, you can just have a Word doc right there in the share link and be, I need you to fill out this form. And then it's just there. They didn't have to download anything. You don't have to worry about, are you working off of draft_schedule_3 spelled out, or draft_schedule_3 the number? Because everybody's always working off of the latest version. And with the online editors, there's even co-editing. And then here's another one really cool thing. So this is pretty new. If you're using, let's say you're using desktop app v6 on Windows, and you've mapped a drive, and you've got Microsoft Office on your computer. So if I open a Word document through that map drive while someone else is already editing it in files, you get that, hey, Amy has this open. Do you want to open it read-only, or do you want to wait until she's done? And it keeps checking. If you say, oh, I want to wait until she's done, it'll keep checking. And then when I close it on the web, the desktop Word editor is like, all right, here's your file. You're ready to edit. So you don't have that problem of whoever uploaded it last wins, just because you're on a desktop editor. So that's amazing. Seriously, if you can use desktop v6, I strongly recommend it. It's a good experience. Oh, and I wanted to say, so while this is frequently, we talk about this as often being for external sharing, it is also great for internal sharing as well. So that thing where I mentioned Vivek can give access to part of the product folder to somebody on marketing, I can create share links for things that I have access to. So if Vivek is on vacation, I can create, if I need to share a spreadsheet with an engineer listing like all the colors we're going to turn the icons in the interface to test for seizures, then I can just make a share link, share that link with the engineer, and we don't have to wait for Vivek to come back and create those permissions. So that's where share links really shine, is that they are designed to be flexible, powerful, useful, and very, very, very configurable. All right, so after share links, which are great, which we love, we also have inboxes, which in some ways feel like they're kind of half of share links because they really only allow people to upload. But they have two big reasons why you might reach for these over a share link. The first is, this is how you get sort of a permanent uploading portal for people. So if you need to be receiving submissions from people continuously, and again, it wasn't appropriate to set up a user account for whatever reason, maybe because of technical restrictions, maybe because you don't know who's going to be uploading, then an inbox, that could even be linked right on your homepage or embedded in your own website, can be a place where you give people a very clean interface, almost as clean as that icon, where there's not a lot of buttons for them to press. They have a place to upload. They may have a registration form they fill out. And just like with the share links, every file that you upload through the inbox gets associated through the metadata ID with all of the information in the registration. So if they put a case number in that, you've got that registration with the case number, you've got the file with the case number, you can link those up and say, this went with this. The other great distinguishing feature about inboxes is that it's the only way you're going to directly email files into files.com. One of the people I had meetings with, again, not in this room, is it me? They have one customer who cannot follow the instruction to go to the website and use the inbox. They just email their files every month. And they're like, would you please stop emailing the confidential files? But the people will not stop emailing the confidential files. So cut out the middleman, email it straight to files.com so it never goes to Gmail, and eliminate a headache. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about. I was applying for this job once, and I put on my resume, proficient in Microsoft Office. And I get into the interview, and they're like, hey, so you say you're proficient in Microsoft Office. I'm like, yeah, I excel at it. Okay, I guess it's in the delivery. But within your files.com site, there is a setting where you can choose the type of editor that is associated with your site. By default, we've got the files.com editor, which is this full-featured editor. It does documents, it does spreadsheets, it does PowerPoint presentations. Or if you are a Microsoft Office shop, you can use your Microsoft Office accounts with your files.com site, and just everybody. The only thing is that everybody on your site all has to be using the same online editor because their editing systems can't talk to each other. But the locking can talk to desktop, so that is fun. The other thing I want to point out here is that both of these editors, no matter which one you're using, have track changes features. So the way we use this in product is that the whole product team will pile into a document, we'll have track changes on, and then Vivek can go and summarily reject any of the suggestions from Amy and accept the ones from Claudio and Devakar. And it just really streamlines the workflow and keeps everybody accountable. All right, so looking at how do we wrap all this up on a whirlwind tour of sharing. How do you decide, I want to do a user account, or I want to do share links, or I need to do an inbox, or all of that? And so here's just sort of there is a correct answer, which I will reveal only at the end of the slide. But the general rules to guide you when making this decision is folder sharing, which is where you're creating the user accounts. You're going to want this if somebody needs protocol access. You're going to want this if somebody needs 2FA. You're going to want this if somebody needs email notifications. If somebody needs desktop app. That is the only way that you're going to get those things. So that's going to be a shortcut to that answer. It is, of course, super flexible, as we've talked about with the very granular permissions. When are you going to reach for a share link? That is when it is usually best for external sharing, but also good for internal sharing. And that is where your line staff are maybe going to be doing the sharing. You've got all of the configuration, so there's a ton of applicable situations to use share links depending on how you've got it configured. And then inboxes, reach for inboxes when you need a location for people to upload to that will never ever change. It always has this address. This is where I send people to do things. We have a university customer who uses inboxes for their admissions department and for their financial aid department. And obviously, they don't want to be switching that link out on a regular basis, like for every school year or everything. So they use inboxes rather than something like a share link. And it provides this branded portal that they just stick right into their web page so that the prospective students and the parents of students, anybody else can upload their securely upload their documentation for financial aid or admissions, what have you. And then the co-editing tools. The big, great thing about these is that it allows for that co-editing, and you don't have to worry about what version of the document are they working on versus what version of the document you're working on. And the keen-eyed among you may have noticed I did not mention public hosting. Yeah. Cool. So the right answer, how do you choose what to do in your situation? And I'm speaking to you like 100% here, totally earnest. If you are sitting here going, I don't know how to do what I need to do, I don't understand these different things, we only hire the smartest kid in the class for the customer engagement. Our support engineers and our onboarding engineers know files inside and out, but more importantly, if you call and say, hey, what does this setting do? They're going to respond with, what are you trying to do? Let's talk about that. So they're not going to steer you into what we like to call a flick gun. They're going to help you understand why each feature makes sense for what you're trying to do. So if I leave you with no other idea from this slide than anything else, I want you to remember, if you're not sure which feature is going to make sense, call support. Like, just pick up the phone call. Tran's amazing. The whole team's amazing. They will get you sorted out. All right, so with that, we finished that. I'd love to know, what kind of questions does this spark?
Hello, I'm Jennifer from Turner Lee Consulting and Design. Question for you. I was just thinking this. If I'm sharing a file and I want you to open it right away, is it a live thing, or do we literally have to take turns downloading it, to open it, to edit it, send it back? So if I want you to look at a file, I'm like, hey, I'm stuck here. Open it right now. I just saved it. Does it save within, or do we still have to do the
Oh,
back and
so with the
forth?
co-editing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is updating the file in your site. So if
Okay.
you shared a folder that has a file in your site and somebody comes in through a share link and edits it, you see those changes right there. And if you make more changes, they see them right there.
Perfect. That answers my question. Thank you.
But see, support would have asked why you needed to know.
Any plans to incorporate some kind of a signing, co-signing capability similar to DocuSign?
You know, I can't speak to a specific feature in the pipeline, but we have had lots of discussions about that. And I know that we've recorded a lot of interest from people about signing, annotating, that kind of thing. So I can add a vote for that. We can talk.
Hey there, Amy. I'm not, excuse me, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but we just introduced, if Amy hasn't mentioned, well, have we introduced PDF annotations?
No, we have not.
Oh, wait, okay, no. All right, never mind, I'll shut up.
Who are you? Who let that man in here?
Thanks, Claudio.
All right. Well, thank you all, and thank you for being here. It's been an honor to meet all of you.